Someone you love is lying in front of you. They were breathing this morning, talking, laughing, eating, and now they aren't. Their body is still warm, and they look exactly the same, yet something is gone. You don't know what it is, where it went, or if it even exists. There are no priests, no holy books, no heaven, no hell, just a body that used to be a person and a silence where they used to be. For ancient humans, this wasn't a philosophical question. It was the most terrifying mystery they would ever face. And surprisingly, the oldest evidence we have suggests that belief in an afterlife did not begin with civilization, religion, or even modern humans. Around 430,000 years ago, deep inside a cave system in northern Spain, known as Atapuerca, archaeologists discovered the remains of 28 individuals belonging to Homo heidelbergensis, an extinct human ancestor. The bodies appeared to have been deliberately placed inside a deep shaft, now known as the Pit of Bones. Among them was a single object, a beautifully crafted red quartzite hand axe, nicknamed Excalibur. It showed no signs of use. Someone had created one of the finest objects they could make and left it with the dead, not for hunting, not for survival, but perhaps for wherever they believed the dead were going. Tens of thousands of years later, the evidence becomes even harder to ignore. In Shanidar Cave in northern Iraq, archaeologists discovered Neanderthal burials dating back roughly 60,000 years. Some bodies appeared to have been surrounded by flower pollen, suggesting that flowers may have been placed over the dead. Whether every detail of that interpretation is correct remains debated, but the broader pattern is undeniable. Across Europe and the Middle East, Neanderthals carefully buried their dead, positioned bodies deliberately, and often covered them with red ochre, a pigment the color of blood and life. These were not random acts. They suggest symbolism, meaning, and perhaps belief. Then, around 34,000 years ago in what is now Russia, archaeologists uncovered one of the most extraordinary burials ever found. At Sungir, a man was buried wearing thousands of ivory beads, surrounded by spears, jewelry, and carved objects. Nearby, 2 children were buried with even greater wealth. Researchers estimate that producing those beads required roughly 10,000 hours of labor. 10,000 hours spent creating objects destined to be buried forever, unless the living believed the dead still needed them. It seems that ancient humans were not merely disposing of bodies. They were preparing people for a journey. But why would so many different human groups, separated by enormous distances and spans of time, arrive at similar beliefs? Cognitive scientists suggest the answer may lie deep within the human mind itself. Our brains evolved to detect and track other minds. It helped our ancestors survive by predicting intentions, recognizing threats, and understanding social relationships. Yet, when someone dies, that mental system does not immediately shut off. You still hear their voice in your memory. You still imagine what they would say. You still dream about them. The mind that once felt so real becomes incredibly difficult to imagine as simply gone. Some researchers argue that belief in an afterlife may not be a cultural invention at all, but a natural consequence of how human brains work. Imagine yourself 40,000 years ago, sitting beside a fire after the death of an elder who knew every story, every trail, every secret of the land. As darkness falls, people begin talking about where they went. Someone says they joined the animals they hunted. Someone else believes they became part of the sky. Another thinks they will return in a future child. No one agrees on the destination, but almost no one accepts that there is nowhere at all. The next morning, they bury the body, place treasured objects beside it, and cover it with red pigment. Not because a religion commands it, but because love makes absence difficult to accept. Then agriculture arrives. Villages become cities, cities become kingdoms, and beliefs about death become powerful tools. Priests, rulers, and empires begin shaping ideas of the afterlife into systems of reward and punishment. What started as a deeply human response to loss becomes one of the foundations of civilization itself. Today, billions of people believe in heaven, reincarnation, spiritual realms, or other forms of existence beyond death. Others believe death is the end. Yet, despite all our science, technology, and philosophy, the question remains remarkably unchanged. The person who carried a loved one into the pit of bones 430,000 years ago had no scriptures, no certainty, and no answers. They only had hope. Hope that the person they loved was not truly gone. Hope that a beautiful gift placed beside the dead might somehow be received. Maybe that belief was not primitive. Maybe it was profoundly human. For nearly 500,000 years, our species and its ancestors have asked, what happens when we die? And after all that time, the most honest answer may still be the first one ever given. We don't know, but we hope. And perhaps we always will.